Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be showing you how we get cost per conversions of under $100 for a dental veneer practice out in California. So clients for this practice on average are worth around $20,000. So these leads are extremely valuable when we bring them in. I'll also show you the amount of revenue we generated based on the amount of ad spend we put in. So just kind of quickly show you how profitable it's been. We not only track the number of leads that we're generating for them, but we also try to track as accurately as we are able to the number of appointments booked. And appointments booked basically means they made $20,000. So if just you get one appointment booked right there for this account, that's $20,000. We spent approximately $6,000 on that campaign. However, that one is more of a top of funnel demand generating campaign. If we move farther down the funnel to where we see some of these other search campaigns that are a little bit more about generating that higher volume or higher intent of traffic, you can see this generated more leads, but it resulted in less appointments booked, whereas this generated less leads, but it resulted in more appointments booked. We generated about 6, and the reason why it's a little bit funky here is because we also run Facebook ads, so we have to make sure that we're doing multi-channel attribution, that we're not double attributing a client and saying, hey, we made you 40K when really in their bank account they see they only made 20K. So somebody must have at one point seen our Facebook ad, and so that's why it takes the 0.03 away from that appointment booked. But that's getting away from the point. 6 appointments booked, $120,000 in revenue. We spent about $4,000 here. So the reason that the search campaign is doing so well is because of the full build out of the Google Ads account. It's not that it's just doing this well on its own. If we pause Performance Max and we pause some of our demand gen campaigns, our performance on search would also tank. We also run Facebook ads that also help generate demand for our specific services. But those we tend to see generate more brand demand than they do generate the demand for unbranded searches. However, it does make us more likely to convert in our Google ads because they recognize our name. They've seen us before. So the combined strategy of Google and Facebook is definitely beneficial, but the performance would be fine without us running Facebook ads. So as we scroll down, we see that we also generated some more leads through our demand gen campaign, and this is just in the past 30 days. We zoom back out, we can see a lot more data, but I just wanted to show you the most recent figures for this account. So you can see it didn't generate any money. However, it did generate some leads in, and it also generated tons of impressions, which is huge because that basically means somebody saw our ad, and then if they were still interested in the types of services that we offer, then when they were searching, they're more likely to convert because they recognize us. And as we keep going down, we also have some search branded campaigns, and like I mentioned, this is just the amount of revenue that we are able to directly attribute to Google. This doesn't count for people who maybe searched us up, found us on Google, and then maybe a couple days later called the office directly. You can only attribute so much. There's only so much advanced conversion tracking that you're able to do to be able to attribute revenue to specific channels, but just based on the attributed revenue, we are doing, let's see, we got 7 leads in here, or we got 7 booked appointments. That's approximately $140,000 in revenue, and we spent about $13,000. So that should be approximately an 11 ROAS. Just quick math off the top of my head. So let's go in and kind of see how exactly we've got these campaigns set up. Once again, this is going to be more of a brief video. This is more of me just kind of showing off and showing the kind of results that we can get. But I also kind of wanted to dive in and allow those people who are just here to learn to be able to kind of steal some of the secrets that we may have hidden in our account for your own campaigns. So inside our Performance Max campaign, we have 2 different asset groups. We have one asset group that is targeted more towards the porcelain veneer searches, and another ad group that is targeted more towards the no prep veneers, which are very similar to the porcelain veneers. It's a very specific type of porcelain veneer where essentially you don't have to shave the teeth at all, much less pain. There's no surgery involved at all. So this is something that's a little bit more high intent of a search, because if somebody's looking for no prep veneers, either they're a dentist themselves or they've already done a little bit of research to know what no prep veneers are. And because we are in the health space, we run into these infuriating policy violations all the time. They seem scary, but in reality, they don't do a whole lot. As you can tell, we're already still getting pretty phenomenal results for this client, regardless of the policy violations. A lot of times, it's sizing, or it's just health and personalized advertising, both of which are super generic. A lot of times, it's just AI, their algorithm telling you that something is wrong when in reality it isn't. But regardless, logo isn't showing all the time for our ads, but hasn't prevented us from getting the results that we are achieving. So the way we have it set up is we're not using all of the headline options that we have, because for most of the accounts that we work on, we don't believe in just putting out every headline possible. We believe in only putting out the headlines that we believe are actually going to drive interest for the product, based on the searches we are showing for. So we do try to basically put in the specific unique value propositions that the business offers that they find are very attractive to their clients. So one thing that's really great for this practice is that they have a the main doctor, Dr. Lale, has 185,000 followers on Instagram. So she has some of that social proof that allows people to essentially trust her more and are more likely to essentially interact with us because they may have seen her before on social media, especially if their algorithm knows that they are interested in these types of services. And then we obviously want to have some call outs. A big thing is no teeth shaving needed. Most of the time that people are looking for porcelain veneers and no prep veneers is they are looking for no pain. They don't want to have their teeth shaven down in order to get these veneers. So that's a big selling point, and that is definitely something that I really believe all dentists who are trying to sell veneers should, if they're trying to sell the high value porcelain veneers, they should have something mentioning that in their headlines. Kind of doing the same thing here in the long headlines and descriptions. Quite frankly, the headlines and descriptions, as long as they are essentially good enough, they've been getting solid results. So when I say good enough, it obviously needs to be able to sell the product. It needs to be able to show off why we are the best. But if you spend a couple hours doing research for the headlines versus if you spent twice as much time, you get to the point where the return on the amount of time spent for your headlines is just overblown, because that's why you're able to put in so many different headlines, so many different descriptions, so many different long headlines, is so that Google can go through and test out which ones are actually going to work best, and then you can go and look at the data to determine what's working well, what isn't. And I often say that sometimes you can over-research when it comes to the headlines and such that you're putting into your campaigns, because if you over-research it and you try to make everything so specific that you don't allow really any variation or things that you wouldn't typically think would work into your headlines, you don't allow Google to essentially A/B test and find some hidden ways to improve your ads in some headlines that you may not have thought would do as well. Obviously, you don't want to just be throwing crap out there, but it does help to make sure that the headlines that you're throwing out there obviously represent the brand correctly and what is beneficial to the consumer. But you can only improve on the headlines so much until you just have to basically put them into play and see the data that comes in. You also see that all of our images are actually banned for health and personalized advertising. That's what this red line around that means. So we're actually not even showing images, which is honestly totally fine for us, because a lot of times image placements are pretty garbage. We do have videos that actually no, we don't have videos in this account. Sorry, it was suggesting us videos, and we don't have videos in either, because we aren't wanting to just show up on a lot of these garbage placements that YouTube and display advertising do offer. I don't recommend not showing up on those for every business, but since we already have a demand gen campaign that is showing up on those platforms, we'd rather Performance Max do its thing and find us more search terms that we can then move down into our search campaign, because as you saw, our search campaign converts at a much higher rate. And then another really quick thing that I always like to do is I don't like to do automated call to actions. I like to put in a call to action that actually represents what we want them to do for our business, because if you do it automated, they can choose anything. They can choose like subscribe if you happen to have an email list on your website or something. So making sure that the call to action makes sense for the action that you want people to take, I find to be very helpful. And then I'm not going to go through the no prep veneers because we have it set up essentially exactly the same, except for the search themes that we're going after are a little bit more varied. So you can see here that porcelain veneers, it's a little bit more generic. We kept it a little bit looser with our audience signals and search themes. We're still giving it search themes and audience signals, but we didn't go in as depth. As you can see, 30 search terms versus 6. So we kept it a little bit loose versus tight to kind of see which one is going to perform the best. And you can actually see here that the cost per conversion is sitting around the same, but we are going after 2 different groups of people with these asset groups. So this is like the ideal performance. They are both competing with each other and performing well. One isn't outperforming the other, and they're going after different search themes, going after different audiences. So our campaigns can continue to reach a wider audience and able to be scaled. So if we go back out and we look at the other campaigns, this video is getting a little bit long away from me, a little bit longer than I was hoping it to be, but we'll go into the search campaign, and we use the same ads in the search campaign that we do for the Performance Max campaign. So I'm just going to jump in and show you the keywords that we're using. And you can see here, this is something that shocks a lot of people, is we are actually using broad match, and it's actually performing extremely well. So if you look at the number of conversions that are coming in, broad match is basically dominating, except for it is dominating across the board, but no prep veneers specifically is eating up a lot more of our ad spend. And then when we jump into the ad group performance, this is obviously ideal because search is specifically meant to be more high intent. We're wanting it to go after people who have shown the most interest in the products and services that we have to offer, and somebody searching up no prep veneers obviously has a little bit more information than somebody who has porcelain veneers, so they are closer to a decision point. So we get 2 different benefits there. One, no prep veneers have a little bit less search volume and are not as generic of a keyword. So there's a little bit less competition there, hence the lower cost per conversion. And 2, they do convert at a little bit higher, not at a little bit higher of a rate, but we get more conversions because, as you can see here, the cost per click, so the cost per conversion is a little bit lower because the cost per click is a little bit lower, and then conversion rate is approximately the same. So we get the double benefit of higher value leads along with lower cost leads. However, we don't just cut off porcelain veneers altogether because we still want to drive people farther down the funnel. We still want to get in front of people that are interested in our services but may not have as much information, because obviously we've got competitors out there that are showing their ads to a lot of those people, and those people are still going to buy. So going back to the keywords, this is something that, like I mentioned a minute ago, shocks people. Broad match way outperforming phrase match, and phrase match not even getting any conversions. And this is one of those things that is because of Google's improvements to their targeting algorithm, the amount of data that they have on people. The more space you allow Google to optimize and target your ads, as long as you're making sure to add tons of negative keywords and prevent Google from showing just spam placements and showing it to people who are clearly not interested, as long as you keep it hemmed in enough and you allow it enough flexibility to kind of test and figure out who's actually going to convert the best, broad match does seem to be kind of pulling away with performance, not just in the veneer space, but in a lot of service-based businesses that we work with. That seems to be getting a outsized portion of the conversions, and not only just because it's showing to more people, but because Google's algorithm is wanting people to use broad match because, one, it's able to show it to more people, hence they can spend more of your money. But at the end of the day, Google's going to lose customers if they're not getting you the results that you need. And so since Google has continued to improve upon their algorithm, that's something we've just continued to test, and we've started to find that broad match starts to outperform phrase match, especially as you're able to spend more money and give Google more data. Big thing is you need to make sure that you're optimizing for high quality conversions. You can't just optimize for click to calls, for people clicking on your form submit button. You need to optimize for conversions that are coming from your CRM. So if you aren't hooked up with your CRM to Google and you're just feeding data or crap data to Google, you're going to get crap results. And so that's a big thing from the get-go for any campaign, is making sure it's set up right, because if it's not set up right, you're going to get screwed. So like I was mentioning with Performance Max not showing in some of those garbage placements, we do still show our ads in some of those so-called garbage placements because they are so cheap. And while that may sound counterintuitive, it's like, oh, Google's wasting your money. Yes, in some cases, if you have it set up wrong and if you are targeting the wrong things and if your other campaigns aren't performing. However, it's one of those things where demand gen has not generated us any revenue. However, we are seeing great results in our other campaigns because demand gen is generating a high number of impressions. So what you can see here, $2,000 for 135 impressions. The next cheapest is $6,000 for 7,000 impressions. So, I mean, quick math there, you're looking at approximately 13 times cheaper for impressions. And then for clicks, we're looking at 50% cheaper for clicks from demand gen. And we also had this display remarketing campaign that we tried to set up and run just to see if we could prove that there was performance being generated specifically by just the display side of Google, so just showing up on other websites. However, wasn't really able to get that off the ground because of some of the policy issues that we run into with health and advertising that can prevent us from highly niching down our targeting. And since our targeting was so niche and we had this health and advertising policy, Google didn't let us run the ads the way we wanted to. So essentially it's active, but it's not showing anywhere because Google won't let us target that specifically. But when we go to the demand gen campaign, this is the final thing that we will show you in this account before hopping off. We are just running video ads. And the reason why we are doing this and the reason why we had that display campaign set up is because we don't trust Google to spend our money effectively. And so we know that YouTube placements are going to be significantly better than display placements because there are a lot of scammers out there that set up websites to essentially get click farm traffic. They have bots that click on your ads, or they pay people overseas to click on your ads that then come in, supposedly do a conversion, but the conversion never happens. Google thinks it does. You got charged for that click, and they do that over and over and can cause a ton of waste of money. Or you go to these clickbait websites that essentially get a bunch of people to click on the website very briefly so they can show super high numbers of traffic, but once they get to the website, they realize there's nothing of value there, and so there's just spam placements of ads everywhere. No one wants those. Most of the time, I'm assuming if you're an intelligent person, you see a lot of those ads, you're like, this is just straight spam. Why would I want to click on this? However, they do work if you show on reputable websites where you aren't just getting spammed with ads, and it's a trusted source. So that's why you use specific targeting and make sure that you're not showing up on crap websites. It can still be useful, but you've got to be very particular about it, and it's a lot more difficult to do that with the health and advertising policy issues. So when we set up this demand gen campaign, we're specifically targeting placements on YouTube because YouTube is obviously a reputable platform. So as you can see here, sorry for the jump cut, just showing on YouTube, the audience that we're going after, kept it extremely broad. We're obviously only targeting a specific location, so it's not like we're targeting all 10 billion of these available weekly impressions, but we're targeting everybody in the specific surrounding 40-mile radius or so around this dental practice that would be interested in these types of services. So obviously the available weekly impressions are significantly lower than what it shows is eligible here, but because we're targeting a smaller location, we've got to keep our audience a little bit broader to make sure we are still targeting people. We're still targeting enough people that we're getting those high volume of impressions at a very cheap rate that makes it valuable for us top of funnel to drive demand farther down the funnel into our search and performance max campaign. As you can see here, we've tested through a lot of different ad iterations, and this is the one we finally stumbled upon over the past month or so that's been working the best. We obviously have the option to turn other ones on if we get to the point where there's a little bit of ad fatigue, and we've shown this ad to everybody that could possibly see it in the 40-mile radius, and eventually we kind of have to shift the different types of creatives that we're using and the different video messages. But one thing that seems to be working really well in YouTube, and sorry I'm not able to scroll down far enough on the side to show you, but it's very much more authentic videos, not highly edited, more showing either a customer that really appreciated the services that we provided them, or the owner or somebody at the business directly talking about the services that they provide. Giving a real human connection to the business seems to be working significantly better than a lot of these highly corporatized edited videos, because people are starting to see through those, especially with how much volume of editing can be done with AI. People are kind of getting sick of that, and so user-generated content and just rough video footage directly, you can have some edits in there still to make it look nice, but keeping the focus more on the people rather than just the message seems to give people more of a connection to the business and brand. It makes them more likely to buy when they interact with your brand again. So that's kind of a full funnel approach that we're taking inside Google Ads. Hopefully this video gives you a better idea of how we go about our strategy and how we get incredible results for businesses like this dental practice. If you have any questions about our services, please feel free to shoot us an email, or if you just have any questions about our strategy or want me to take a look at your account, we'd be more than happy to do so, or ask some questions in the comments. Help us get this video out to more people. So we'll see you in the next video.